Hey guys, welcome to the Hour of Devastation Commander Deck Builder Challenge videos. If you're watching the gameplay, there are 4 other Deck Builder Challenge deck techs all around. Check the links. And then if you're watching a deck tech, check the link. And then 3 other links for those deck techs and the gameplay.
We're learning how to do links.
Yes, we're trying to push the limit. So
look, a link.
Check them out. Hopefully you like it.
How's it going? I am Kiley. I'm going to go over a brief deck tech of my Locust God for the upcoming Deck Builders Challenge. So I'll be going over some highlighted cards in this for you. Before I do that, definitely like, subscribe, and do all that fancy stuff for our for the YouTube channel, because it really helps us out. So anyway, let's get rolling onto this thing. So the Locust God, as you all know, just came out, or hasn't come out yet, but is going to come out shortly, and it is all around drawing cards. So the big thing in the deck you're going to see a lot of, and I'll mention them, but they're not necessarily the highlights, but it really plays off the fact that I'm drawing cards and that I'm going to have a lot of 1/1 flyers on the battlefield. So let's start off with some artifacts. One of the key artifacts in here that I think is going to be really helpful, especially for this event that we're doing, is Coat of Arms. Coat of Arms is not going to trigger off any of the other players' generals, I don't think, because I don't think there's a whole lot of tribal theme going on, but I'm gonna have a crap ton of insects, so I'm really hoping to play off that. Hedron Archive is something that's a little under the radar. It's just a mono rock that taps for colorless, but the big part about it is if I need to, I can actually sacrifice it and draw a card. So it's kind of that like instant speed, I need to draw a card, I need to get a chump blocker out there, something like that. And then obviously Skull Clamp in the deck is going to go absolutely monstrous. You sack 1 to get 2 back, so obviously you're getting a better return on your 1/1 flyers, and it's only 1 mana to do it. Plus you're drawing all the cards to get the advantage. I mean, it's just nuts in the deck in general. So that's kind of the artifacts. Otherwise, there's a lot of ramp in there. Some other things that are going to help, wheel effects like Teferi's Puzzle Box. But let's go on to the enchantments now. This is where I'm going to have, I think, a little bit more fun with the deck. And Archmage Ascension is probably one of the highlights of the deck. I'm going to be drawing so many cards that I feel like getting Archmage Ascension off is going to be super easy. So once I get Archmage Ascension to the counters that it needs, then I get to fetch for the pieces of my deck that are really going to push me over being like stable with the board and just hopefully win me the game. So Archmage Ascension is going to be, hopefully I get it early enough that it's really going to make an impact on the game and maybe even win it for me. Gravitational Shift is also going to be another card that I'm excited to play. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of flyers, again, with the opponents that I'm playing against. So that's not only going to make their creatures smaller by 2, but it's also going to make all of my 1/1s 3/1s now. And that, I mean, once you start getting a bunch of 3/1s, things start getting pretty hairy. Plus they all have haste, so that's always a good thing. Mana Echoes is also going to be an incredible card in the deck. I'm doing a lot of wheel effects, so I'm discarding my hand, drawing cards. If I get Mana Echoes and I'm just flooding myself with that mana, I can just keep wheeling over and over and over again, hopefully, and just flood the board with insects. I mean, they're locusts, so you got to play to the fact that there's gonna be a lot of them. And then Training Grounds is another card on here that I think is going to be really good. It's only 1 blue, which is really attractive, but the Locust God has an activated ability of 2 colorless, a red and a blue, to loot, draw a card and discard a card. Well, if you're just paying a red and a blue for that, that's actually really, really good. And then I do have a couple other creatures in here where their effects being cheaper is actually going to help me out quite a bit. So those are the enchantments. Let's go on to the creatures that I'm putting in there. I've got a couple really cool highlights. I mean, I think the obvious one to point out here is Perforos. Perforos has kind of got to be in the deck because you get a dude, you deal 2 damage to everyone, and you get tons of dudes. So Perforos is one of the win conditions in the deck, obviously. The other win condition in the deck that I know a lot of people that are used to playing against me hate to see is Psychosis Crawler. I play around Psychosis Crawler really well. The best part about Psychosis Crawler is its loss of life, so it can't be prevented. Typically, there's really no way to get around it. The reason why Psychosis Crawler is very popular for me is that it's just going to win the game because you can't stop it from happening unless you try and get rid of it, or with a split second, because obviously I'm going to draw in response most of the time. Niv Mizzet the Firemind is kind of another thing that does similar to the Psychosis Crawler, except for it is damage, so technically it can be prevented, but still going to go off in the same way. Chasm Skulker is going to be really cool in the deck too. First off, it gets out pretty early, so that's really helpful for me. And then for each card I draw, Chasm Skulker gets bigger, so I can honestly just have one huge creature to go at people with. Or later down the road, I can sacrifice it, and all of a sudden I've got a bunch of 1/1s. Again, playing on that theme of having a bunch of small things. And then I think two of the cards that I'm actually most excited about in my creatures. First one's going to be Sphinx of Magosi. 6 cost Sphinx, 3 colorless, and 3 blue, so it's pretty blue intensive. But for 2 colorless and 1 blue, you can draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on it. So not only does it get bigger when you use its ability, but with things like Training Ground, that's 1 blue mana draw a card, which the cost for that is insane. I mean, you don't get that kind of value. So I think that interaction is going to be really good. And then Wind Reader Sphinx is the next one. All of my creatures are pretty much going to be flyers, unless they're doing something important for me on the ground, like Perforos. And so when I'm attacking, I'm going to get the Wind Reader Sphinx to trigger on my attacking creatures and draw more cards and get more creatures. So it's just the synergy with that in my general is really insane. I think it's going to be really helpful. There's only a couple lands that I want to highlight in this. I have 3 of similar effects, but I'll highlight just 2 of them. Desolate Lighthouse is one, and that is 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 red to draw a card and discard a card to do a loot effect. Having a draw in your lands is really helpful because it's a lot of times it's difficult to deal with. Let's say they have counterspells. Well, they can't counterspell the land typically unless they're doing like a stifle effect. So more often than not, it's a more guaranteed way to draw cards. And it's kind of something that people don't see coming. So a lot of people don't look at your lands. So if you have like, oh, at end of turn, I'm going to draw, everyone's going to draw, or I'm going to draw, people start getting, oh, I didn't realize that, or they attack and then you draw and you have the chump blocker, that kind of thing. So Desolate Lighthouse draws and discards for me. And then Makokoro, this Sender of the Sea, is actually going to have everyone draw a card. I did decide in this deck not to go with the Sphinx, Consecrated Sphinx. It just seemed, it seemed too broken. Like, there's a level where you just realize that everything's too broken, and I decided not to go with it. But either way, it's going to get me a draw card. Just really value. 2 mana, tap, draw card. So, really good. And then some of the instance, this has one of my favorite cards in it, and I'll get there at the end because I'm just super hyped about this card in this deck. But first, counterspells are going to be a mainstay in the deck. I'm going to want to stop people from stopping what I'm doing. So I've got probably more counterspells in this than I normally run, but the counterspells are kind of fun, like Dismiss. So it's 4 colorless and 2 blue to counter a spell, so it's a little bit hefty, but I draw a card. So it does give me the value of drawing a card and getting a creature. So if you think about 4 mana for a 1/1 flying haste and a card, or and a counter spell, and a card, like those 3, like that's just value. Really good cost for that. I do have Polymorph's Jest. So, you know, I know that all my other opponents are going to have these big beefy creatures. They're going to have these these bombs that are going to hit the battlefield and they're just going to start running away with the game. Well, that's all fine and well until they decide to all out me, and then I'm in a really tough position. Yeah, I can chump block with 1/1s, but if they've got trample, then I'm in trouble. You know, there's a lot of different things that put me in a really kind of a bind, especially if their creatures have any like leave the battlefield effects. I know Ashen Rider's one that I always am super afraid of. I'm not sure I'm going to see one in this setting, but cards like that I'm always super afraid of. So being able to, at instant speed, turn all of my opponent's creatures into a 1/1 with no abilities, which is really a big part of that, and then chump block them with my tokens that I don't care about losing, and all of a sudden their whole board's decimated, like that's just going to be, I feel like that's going to be one of those pocket cards that's going to surprise people. So unless they watch this video, then I'm totally screwed. But one of the other ones that I wanted to, that I was pretty excited about is, and I'm going to butcher this name, Mnemonic Nexus? Mnemonic? Anyway, you'll correct me in the comments. It's an instant speed, return all graveyards to their owner, their libraries. You shuffle them in. It's going to have actually a couple effects for me. So I'm definitely playing it for my deck because I've got a lot of wheel effects. So drawing and discarding, I mean, I'm going to be going through my deck pretty quickly, hopefully. And if I get kind of close to milling myself, that's pretty dangerous. So I've got a couple ways to do that, but it also has the added benefit of if somebody's playing a graveyard deck and they're going off on it, well, yeah, then I'll use it offensively to shuffle all that stuff in. That way they can't. So it's got kind of two facets to it, which is always good to have in a card. And then the last card that I want to talk about is definitely my favorite. It's called Keep Watch, and for 2 colorless and 1 blue, you draw a card equal to the amount of attacking creatures. Now, that is just awesome, and even if you just think about it in terms of, I'm going to play that on my turn when I attack, and I attack with 10 1/1s, I'm drawing 10 cards, I'm getting 10 more 1/1s. But then think about it for people attacking with a large number of creatures. I can play that, draw into maybe a Cyclonic Rift or an Answer, plus have chump blockers. It's just, I think it's going to be one of my favorite cards in the way that it's going to meld with the Locust God. So, those are definitely some of my highlights cards, but I think I'm most excited about this deck of the deck that we've done for these challenges, because it plays right into my wheelhouse of drawing to win, because card advantage wins you the game in and of itself, and then when your card advantage also deals damage and gets you a bunch of creatures, it just kind of gets a little bit out of hand. So I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you want the full list, it's on Tapped Out, so you can always see that, and know that this is definitely like an iteration 1 or 2, so there's probably still going to be changes to it after that, but not before the game that we play. But yeah, thanks for watching.